back into the home.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually a difficulty that a lot of troops face when they come back to their family life. Life has gone on without them while they've been overseas. Mm-hmm. Their spouse has taken on roles that they weren't traditionally responsible for before. And a lot of times you're finding that when the spouse comes home from war, they almost feel as though, well, I may not be needed in the role that I was needed before. Life has gone on. Where do I fit into this family dynamic? Mm-hmm. And so that's something that we're seeking to address as well. One of our primary goals in the coming year is to assist with is to develop a new program specifically for guardsmen and reservists. Mm-hmm. That has to do with how you go through this transition, but not only for the troop themselves, but for the family member. Some of the ideas that we're throwing around right now is when you bring them back after their 90-day furlough, can you bring their family together for something similar to a retreat where you learn about the benefits that you have entitled to you, where you can help to identify some of the issues that you may be facing, mm-hmm. whether it's in your home life or with employment opportunities, things like that. And so that's something we're looking to explore this summer. Our legislative department's working with several members around Congress to see what we can put together, what's actually feasible within the military system, and take it mm-hmm. from there.
How is the employment going as they return? Because we have a lot of layoffs and...
Veterans, post-9/11 veterans have been hit especially hard by the economic crisis. I believe it was the U.S. Bureau of Labor released a report last week that said about 2% higher than civilian sector mm-hmm. For veterans. And this is something that we're going to see a lot more of as more and more troops are coming home, and as our economy is in a bit of a lull. And some of the issues that they're facing, military skills don't always transfer over to the civilian world mm-hmm. as easily. If you've been taught how to do a patrol or a cordon or mm-hmm. or infantry tactics, there aren't many places you can go. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is work on assist veterans with their resumes. Mm-hmm. How can your military skills transfer over to the civilian world? And also, in regards to employment, when you come back from overseas, you're behind your peer competitors in the job market. Say you deployed, you had a bachelor's degree, and you come back, your peers have a year more experience than you, and employers really don't want to have to train you on the job for your industry. Mm-hmm. And then the third component that I want to touch on with that mm-hmm. is actually education. And as you know, the post-9/11 GI Bill passed last year, which is going to allow post-9/11 veterans all sorts of educational opportunities. But once they're enrolled in college, how do you keep them there? Mm-hmm. The GI Bill usage has been traditionally high, but a lot of veterans don't see it through to completing their degree. So what we've done is we started to work with a program out of Cleveland State University called Supportive Education for the Returning Veteran. And what this basically provides is a model for schools to cater to their new, younger veterans. And we've tried to work with Congress a lot to pass legislation encouraging schools to adopt these types of programs. And we were actually successful last summer in including a provision in Senator Kennedy's higher ed bill, which commissioned about $10 million, or set aside about $10 million for such programs. Mm-hmm. And now we're working on having that funded in the fiscal year 2010 budget.
Well, you know, the workforce picture has changed tremendously since the other wars as well. The different skills are needed. And I remember when my father returned, he had an opportunity to go to a trade school and learn tailoring, and I don't know that is available now.
And that's one of the things that we're trying to address. I know there's been a lot of skepticism about what exactly the post-9/11 GI Bill will cover, and also what skills are in demand. And that's really a tough issue. What are our veterans best cut out to? What roles are they best cut out to fill in society? Which jobs are their skills uniquely tailored for? And so that's something we're looking into.
So there is a new GI Bill that benefits the veterans.
Yes.
Is that up to date, or is it workable for now?
We're encouraged by what we've seen. Of course, we are expecting some hurdles in implementation, but from the last conference call that we sat in on with the VA, they're meeting their benchmarks. They needed to hire a number of new employees to ensure that the new GI Bill rolled out on time. And we were happy to hear that they hired them on time. They've already started training, and they've already started testing the system. There are a couple of markets where the VA has sent out versions of the application to see exactly how it's going to work. In the beginning, we were a little pessimistic about whether they would be able to implement it on time, and we still see grumblings as to whether or not the benefit will be equitable based on which state you're in, and tuition costs, fees, and how they're going to work on that. But we're encouraged, and we think that they'll be able to deliver it on time.
It seems to me that where the heaviest veteran populations are appear to be in the low-income areas. Some of the poor from rural areas, but for the most part, poor, low-income people from the inner cities. And the experience is now quite different from the inner city and rural. So has that been addressed specifically?
I can't speak to that exactly, and that's a tough issue. I know a lot of the major VA health centers are in major metropolitan areas, and they're seeing all sorts of issues unique to major cities. And one of the toughest issues that you're going to see in urban areas a lot of times is homelessness. The cost of living is higher, the expectations are higher, and so a lot of times veterans are susceptible to falling through the cracks. And it really comes down to how do we take care of them when they come home. Are all the proper transition assistance tools in place? When a troop's coming off of active duty, does he or she know where to go to get a job, to get their benefits, how their skills will transition back? For instance, if you're an MP when you're overseas, can you come back and find a way to get into a local police force? If you're a truck driver, as a stopgap measure, what can you do as far as becoming an auto mechanic, transferring those skills over?
Things really have changed
considerably.
Now, what are the age spans? Are many of the veterans younger coming back now?
They were in the beginning, but now the average age is a lot older than what we've seen in past conflicts. And as you mentioned before, troops are doing multiple deployments. The global war on terrorism has been going on now for nearly 8 years. It's 2009. Our first troops deployed in 2001. So we're finding that they're younger than previous generations, obviously, but veterans these days are a little older. Many of them have families, prior obligations, other commitments, and this is one of the dicey issues to transfer back to education. If you're coming off active duty and you're just as an example, a 32-year-old staff sergeant, are you really going to want to be sitting in a classroom with a bunch of 18-year-old college freshmen?
And other categories of just new recruits have been deployed to be of assistance, National Guard and many of the reservists who had never seen any combat before because of the need. Has there been any difference noticed in the performance and, I guess, age groups of those?
From what we've seen, not really. It hasn't been an issue that we have addressed coming from that angle, as far as whether or not guardsmen and reservists are facing different hurdles because of the age barrier.
Well, I've experienced father and daughter, and father and son being deployed at the same time. I'm not sure that ever happened in any other conflict.
No, and that's something that we've seen a number of times too. You'll see, for instance, even at the highest levels. General Odierno and his son was deployed to Iraq and ended up being severely wounded over there. And a lot of folks say that actually changed his perspective on the